Hey, Camille. Oh my gosh, look at you and your cute little camera.
They work. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you really well, but oh, my volume was down.
Gotcha. I'm taking this ridiculous thing off. I look like I'm in Canada. I'm bundled up.
No, it's really cold. Like I'm cold.
It is really cold today. Okay, you're on camera. Yep,
Okay. I think this is
it's
set
working.
that anyone is able to share. So
Mhm.
sweet.
Okay. Writing.
Oh, good. You found your way in.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for participating. We're so excited.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
How do I pronounce your last name? Stefanik?
It's Stepanik.
Stepanik. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's not right, it's totally fine.
I'm glad I asked. I would totally have said Stefanik or something.
That's fine, honestly. It's a pretty normal thing.
Okay. We're just gonna wait. Hopefully more people will come.
No problem.
Camille, I'm gonna make you a co-host so you can also see when people are coming in. And if I'm talking, you can let people in. If that
Gotcha.
works. Thanks.
Is this also a mute thing, or like if people are presenting, mute the people watching, or?
You can if you need to, but I don't think it will be an issue. We didn't have an issue last time.
Gotcha.
Hello, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Just trying to sit up real quick.
We will be waiting till probably a little afternoon to see people trickling in, and then I will start recording, and then both of you should have the ability to screen share.
Perfect.
It's actually recording right now.
Oh, well then, perfect.
If you just hit
Oh, I
pause or
see.
stop
Pause,
recording.
stop.
Yeah.
Got it. I think we will wait a little afternoon for our other speakers to come in too. Thank you for being early. Hi, Caitlin.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. I'm running around a little bit, but I'm here now.
Thank you so much for coming. I know you are on kind of a tight schedule, so we were still waiting for some folks to hop in, but if you would prefer to get started now, we can totally do that.
Either way, I'm good until 12:30.
Okay, perfect. Then let's wait just a few more minutes, and then we can get started at 12:05. Honestly, the silence is killing me. Let's just get this thing started. So for the recording's sake and everybody else's sake, my name is Annabelle Wyrick, and I'm very excited to have you all here. I'm one of this year's UW Combined Fund Drive campaign assistants. We here at the UWC are really excited to be continuing our Lunch and Learn program, especially in the remote hybrid world. It's really important to us that we continue to provide this space for amazing nonprofits like yourselves to continue sharing your stories, and so we can get the word out. And then just some housekeeping things. We're going to be doing questions at the end, so people feel free to throw things in the chat if you feel as though you're going to forget. All right, so today our Lunch and Learn is going to be focusing on animal welfare. It's no secret wildlife and wild places are seriously dwindling, especially here in Seattle, our own backyard. From big iconic species like rhinos, wolves, and polar bears, to even our bivalves like oysters and mussels, their habitat and population count are certainly changing. And even our own animals in our own communities need access to resources and care that they might not have needed before. And so today we're really lucky to have a wide variety of speakers all talking about different ways that they help animal welfare. So Caitlin, you are more than welcome to get started and share your screen. Dr. Caitlin Hadfield is the senior veterinarian at the Seattle Aquarium.
Great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Terrific. Share screen. Can you see a PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
Terrific. Okay, I'm Caitlin Hadfield. I'm the senior vet at the Seattle Aquarium. I've been here near on 4 years now. And I have to be in another meeting. I cannot get out of at 12:30. So if you do have any questions on any way through this, feel free to write them in the chat. And then if there is a few minutes afterwards, I'm happy to try and answer them, or I can email them while the next talk is going on. So I'm going to talk about animal welfare and specifically how we use animal welfare to help make evidence-based decisions at the Seattle Aquarium. Maybe. There we go. So there are lots of definitions for animal welfare. It's obviously in the human field associated with some negative connotations. Some of the definitions speak to different people. So our accrediting organization is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and their definition includes the term that animal welfare is an animal's collective physical, mental, and emotional states. That is great, but where I struggle with that is when I look at a brittle star, I cannot tell you if the brittle star is healthy. So there are other terms for animal welfare that really sort of help other people wrap their head around it. And one of the ways it really helps is how an animal is coping with its environment. And that really ties in that environmental component, which is huge for how the animal is dealing with the world that it is in. Another way that people might want to think about it is health and well-being. And it exists on a spectrum. It could be poor, it could be good. And what we really want is for our animals to thrive. So where did it all come about from? It started from the 5 freedoms. This came out of the UK in a report by Bramble. And this was game-changing at the time, focused on farm animals. But you can see from that list that that's really a bare minimum goal. And so this was modified into the 5 opportunities to thrive, using a very similar sort of 5 topics. And then from there, it went into the 5 domains model. You can nod your heads or cross your heads. Have people heard of the 5 domain model for animal welfare? Mixture. Okay. So again, this came from those 5 freedoms and moved on from there. And you might see little modifications for this, but they're all pretty similar. And they usually focus on 5 categories within animal welfare that are going to impact animal welfare. So the environment, appearance and behavior, nutrition, health, and then the 5th one is often some component of mentation, a motor stage, or something like that. But like I said, when you're talking especially about invertebrates, that mental state actually does get a bit confusing. So what we've done with that last category is change it to choice and control, and to really highlight that rather than assuming I know what makes brittle star happy, we're going to give this brittle star choice to be able to modify its own environment and choose where it wants to be and what it wants to do. And that's going to be, it's so important to welfare that it's going to be its category all on its own. So that's the 5 domain model for animal welfare. So 2 little sidebars. The first one is animal rights. This is a very different concept from animal welfare. So I'm just going to really briefly go through it. Animal rights is a philosophical view. It's based very much around human concepts of legality, morality, how animals are used by humans. It is subjective and it's obviously very emotional. And it's based very much in ethics. So animal welfare and animal rights are very different topics, and we can talk about both of them for ages, but for this talk, I'm going to try and focus on animal welfare and run through that. And on that note, there's one other thing that usually comes up with animal welfare. This argument comes up a lot. Does welfare actually apply to fish and invertebrates? And the argument behind that usually centers on the fact that if you cannot prove that every fish and invertebrate species feels pain, which is a whole nother 6-hour lecture, then welfare doesn't matter. Now, it's really fair to say that if an animal feels pain and it is feeling pain, that is a very good indicator of poor welfare. However, good welfare absolutely does not require that. And one of the ways that can help people sort of wrap their head around it is going back to that 5-domain model. So having an appropriate environment, having access to the right food, eating the right foods, having good health, having choice and control, those all matter, whether you're a fluffy otter or a trout or a superworm. And those are needed for you to have good welfare and for animals to thrive. So really, animals do not need a known pain response. They don't need the very complicated definition of consciousness. They don't need sentience for welfare to matter to them. Just based on these sort of categories, welfare matters for every living organism out there. And for them to thrive, welfare has to be good. So those are the two sidebars. So how do we make use of this concept of animal welfare at the Seattle Aquarium? We've always had an animal welfare program. It is run by an animal welfare committee, and we've always had reporting mechanisms for concerns. And that doesn't matter, that can be external, it can be visitors, it can be contractors, it can be internal. There's lots of mechanisms for that. We obviously also focus on education and training for our staff and our volunteers. But over the last few years, there's been a shift to using animal welfare to help us make decisions, to improve animal welfare. And so this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about here, which is our assessment and review process. And we're taking a four-pronged approach to this. Two of those prongs are looking at the natural history and looking at the individual history. And those provide the context to interpret how we're assessing how those animals are coping with the world that they're in. The other two parts of this, one is a quality of life assessment, and that's effectively a very individualized welfare assessment for one animal that we think is potentially at the end of its life, and lets us really delve into factors that might indicate whether it is the right time to euthanize, whether the animal is doing well, whether we need to change anything so that it can do better. And then the fourth prong is our routine welfare assessments. So every animal at the aquarium has their welfare assessed at least twice a year. And as part of this, we review that data and we try and improve it. So how do we do that? We use that 5-domain model. So here are the 5 domains again. And for each of these categories, we've picked indicators that work for whatever we're assessing, whether it is cute fluffy otter or a bunch of stony corals in a system. And then within each of those indicators, we can score how that is working out. And so indicators within these and the environment, it might be, hey, do these animals have the right substrate, or much better, are they using the substrate in a way that we think suggests good welfare? For nutrition, are they actually eating the right food, which is very different from are we offering the right food? So we want to know what they're doing with their environment. And then health, we might look at current health issues. We also might look at longevity for a species and a bunch of other parameters underneath that. So with each of these domains, we've got a bunch of indicators and we score them. And to do that, we use our medical record system, which is called TRACS. There's two really big ones in the zoo and aquarium world. There's TRACS and ZIMS. We are on TRACS. And to do that, we use either desktop, laptop, or tablets. And we pick our assessment bench sheet, which is that top view there. And then this is what it would look like if we're doing welfare assessments on 6 systems in a gallery. And as you go along, the people doing the scoring, which is often a small group, assess the habitat, in this case, life support system function, water quality, external appearance, and so on. And then we get scores. So what do we do with the data? We spend a fair amount of time reviewing it. Anything that gets a really low score, which for us is a 1 out of 5, gets an immediate alert. It's automatically sent out from the system that goes out to the people in charge, and we act on it. We also look at it during routine exams. So normally during routine exams, you're always going to look at what the diet, supplements, weight changes, all that sort of thing. But looking at the welfare assessments is just a standard part of our routine exams as well. And then we look at them during significant life events. So that might be an animal that's just come in, is going through quarantine. It might be a medical case. There might be other things going on, and we increase our assessments then. And then we also review all the welfare assessments every quarter. And to show you what that might look like, the graph on the right is an individual animal. The blue line is a welfare assessment that's being done. You can see that sort of trickling down, raising some concerns. So we added in a session score, which you can see just from those low values is not great. So we're making modifications. We actually had some animal health issues right then. And so we switched this animal to quality of life monitoring, which is the green bar, but you can see it's doing better. And this is actually a little bit older. The animal is still doing great on the monitoring, thanks to the changes we made it to improve the welfare. When we do these reviews, we obviously want to record our action. We want to close that loop. We want to do something. We want to record it. We want to communicate that this is going great. And sometimes those decisions are hard. Sometimes you're faced with solutions that are not easy to come up with. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with IACUC systems, but there's the 3 R's of the IACUC, which helps you mitigate animal impacts. And they're actually really useful. We found them very useful when you hit issues where you think there might be an impact, a negative impact on animal welfare. You want to resolve it, but it's not an easy solution. And so that's reducing, replacing, and refining the processes to reduce any impact on the animals. And then all the way through this, we really, really, really want to encourage discussion. That is one of the big goals of this. And one of the ways we do that is these quarterly reviews. We do a multi-tiered review. So when we do those reviews, we include the animal care staff, the managerial level, which are often called curators and vets, and then we also include the director level. And that communication loop has really helped with transparency and understanding what is going on and what the needs are. So that has been enormously helpful. And has it actually helped? If you ask me, I'm going to say yes. You can feel free to ask anyone else at the aquarium. I think these were the 4 goals that we came up with for what we wanted to get out of it. And I think we've hit all of these. We're always going to be improving. First one is evidence-based decisions. We are able to use these assessments to help prioritize what needs to happen. None of us live under infinite resources. That would be lovely. We just don't live in that world. And so we do need to prioritize. And this helps us emphasize the animal importance, animal welfare impacts of the changes we made, and prioritize what habitats need to change, what management changes we need to do, if we want to do anything different about our species plans, which is what we did with our salmonids. And that really has been enormously helpful for that. We also really want to engage and empower our staff. So we want the newest intern in the animal care staff to have a voice in this. And that's very important to us. The next stage of this is to open this up from the animal care teams into the wider community. So for us right now, the next step is sort of the front of house staff. So that's groups like visitor engagement and education, because they're just going to have just as much input as to how animals are doing, how animals are looking, how they're interacting with their environment, and any ideas they have for improvements. So we really want to engage more in that. Really important for us was elevate welfare for fish and invertebrates. This is a hot button topic for me, because I do not like it anytime I've come across where mammals are at a level and fish and invertebrates and birds and other things are at different levels. So it's the same process for all of them, which has been great. And then all the way through this, by being transparent about the process, about being honest about our successes and where we want to improve, really helps improve trust, I think. And that is what this boils down to. Those 4 things are beneficial whether you are working in an aquarium, whether you're working in a research facility, a fish aquaculture facility, whether you're working with wildlife. All of these are really important. And what it really boils down to is absolutely everyone benefits in any situation when these animals experience good welfare. And that, I think, is my blurb. So I am happy to take any questions. I'm happy to have a look at the chat as soon as I find it again on this computer screen. And I will stop sharing and hand back to you, Annabelle.
Caitlin, what a great presentation to get this Lunch and Learn going. Those were amazing definitions. Thank you so much. I was a marine biology minor, so I definitely understand the whole topic of fish not getting the same credit as our bigger animals. Yeah, and again, if anyone has questions, throw them in the chat so Caitlin can answer them before she has to leave. Okay, our next speaker up is going to be Bonnie, who is the animal welfare scientist at the Woodland Park Zoo. So Bonnie, you can share your screen and get started whenever.
Hi everybody. So I'm super glad that Caitlin went first, because she set me up for success here quite a bit. I'm not sure why I can't find the share screen button. I feel like an idiot. Cool. Oh, right there, the big green one. Nice. It's that kind of day. Hi, everyone. Okay. So I'm so glad that Caitlin was able to talk about the definitions of welfare. That's going to really shorten my talk so we can talk more about really cute animals and show great videos and pictures. So that's what I am planning to do. I started very similarly to Caitlin, saying, so our animal welfare program here at Woodland Park Zoo is really comprehensive. So it is emphasizing the lifelong physical, behavioral, and psychological well-being of every single animal in our care. And that's from our big gorillas and giraffes all the way down to our Portula snails and our invertebrates, right? So because everything is important, just like we all just said. So here's some great examples of what we do for welfare. So we do a lot of behavioral research. So right there is one of our research assistants collecting behavior data on our jaguar. which is fascinating because, you know, cats sleep 20 hours a day. So it's a lot of just this, which is also important data. In the middle here, we have Penelope, one of our geriatric at 3 years old, geriatric opossums, and she is training here for some physical therapy because opossums get old when they're 3 and they get some spondylitis. And we work on physical therapy from the time we get them, doing this balance beam and trying to help with their strength and conditioning. And then over here on the side here are our famous family farm sheep, Sophia and Loren. They are chunky sheep, so they are in an exercise program. They wear little Fitbits on their collars to help us monitor how that exercise is working. Obviously, we know that if you exercise more, you lose weight, but it's also trying to maximize keeper time, right? If we have them doing this running, obviously they're going to lose weight, but we want to know what's the most efficient way to get that activity up in them. And you also notice that Loren in the white there is kind of an Ironman here, and her sister Sophia is more interested in just knocking over the hurdles. So that is another testament to welfare as individual. So everyone has their own ideas of what they think is good for their own welfare. So it's our job to kind of manage those choices and help them make better choices for themselves. So similarly, here's our definition from AZA of what is welfare. Caitlin did a great job explaining that. I like to also add that they made this definition. It took about 5 years for really smart vets and PhDs to come up with this. But they also have this really long explanation that goes with it. So basically all of these words just mean that welfare is all the things, and all of those things are entwined with each other. So your mental health is tied in with your physical health and emotional health. And also all those things change all the time, depending on your stimulation or your environment or what you just experienced or what you're about to experience. So it's a moving target, and it's on this continuum, and we want to stay on the good part of the continuum longer than the not so good part of the continuum. So it's a constant moving process, and times all the animals in our care. So welfare is a big job for all of us, right? And these are all really fancy words and great academically, but how do we actually apply that? So Caitlin talked about the 5 domains model. Here at Woodland Park Zoo, we use the 5 opportunities model. Very similar, almost the same thing. So I'm going to go through and show you how these opportunities are actually what they look like in action here for our animals at the zoo. So here again, these opportunities apply to everything. So here are some of the animals we have here. We have great big giraffe and gorillas. We also have these Partula snails that we release back into the wild because they're this very endangered snail, invasive species have taken them out on their one little island. So it's our job to help kind of raise them and head start them and send them back out. So all of these things apply to every one of the animals in our care. So the first one is that well-balanced diet. And it's not, like she said, not just what we feed the animals, but it's actually how we feed those animals too. It's really important to have like the natural diet and the great nutritionally balanced, but it's also no animals are evolved in the wild to be fed twice a day out of a silver bowl on the ground, right? So it's really important for us as animal caretakers to take into account what these animals have evolved to do. Do they forage all night? So giving them a bunch of meals, a big pile of food in the morning when we're here, it's convenient for us, is actually not great for them, right? So it's thinking about the whole animal's experience. That might be whole prey or parts of a goat for our lions, right? And that can be disturbing for our guests. So it's kind of something we have to balance. It's really important for the lions. But if a kid comes up and sees a goat they just saw on the farm and they think that's the same, or it's a whole thing. So it's really kind of balancing the perceptions, but also the animal's welfare. So you'll see our otters and our browse for our gorillas, which is really hard to get in Pacific Northwest in general for all zoos. We try to kind of think about that whole thing, not just what we're feeding. The next one is self-maintenance. So this is kind of a broad category that really applies differently to every animal you're talking about. So it's basically, what does this mean? What do we have to provide for the animals to be able to be comfortable? And for some animals, that might be giving them shade because they're from an Arctic climate, and might be giving them heat because they're from somewhere else, right? It's kind of managing what they can do to help make themselves comfortable. And that might be giving them bedding. Gorillas and apes, it's very important to give them nest material. Yes, it's called a nest because gorillas and apes in general nest quite a bit. And that could be burlap sacks or hay or straw or all kinds of things that they would use to make themselves a nice little nest. It's important for rhinos and warthogs to have mud to keep their skin conditioned. The grizzlies like to swim. So we have to, as caretakers, we have to think about all of those things that the animals might want and might desire, and give them those opportunities to be able to engage in those things. Optimal health, super important, obviously, to have a world-class vet team, but it's also important to have that communication loop, an open communication between your veterinarians and the direct caretakers and our science staff, and thinking of new ways to do some preventative medicine or rehab medicine, perhaps. So we have a pretty comprehensive preventative medicine and a rehabilitation medicine program here at the zoo. We do laser therapy, acupuncture, massage, like you saw with our opossum. We do a lot of, we have a physical therapist, veterinarian that comes in consults for some of our geriatric animals or animals that might have some mobility challenges. So we work through those things, and a lot of that is voluntary. So obviously, when we have the gorilla on the left there, when we do an anesthesia, it's a big deal. We try to do that very often because it's risky, right? So we do want to do that. If we do have to put an animal under anesthesia, especially something like a gorilla, we call in everybody. So we'll call UW doctors, we'll call human medicine, we'll call dentistry, we get, root canals, anything done, everything done at the same time so that we maximize the benefit for the animal that we're going to put under anesthesia. But mostly we try to train our animals to voluntarily participate in their own healthcare. So in the middle there's one of our gorillas voluntarily putting her arm out so we can draw some blood. There's our Mr. C, the penguin, getting his laser therapy. He looks like he's being held there, but he's allowed to walk away whenever he wants. So they generally really enjoy this time with their keepers, this individual momentum. So it's really important for us to not make their treatment stressful, right? So we want them to participate in their own healthcare. Typical behaviors for the species, obviously that varies, but depending on what you are. If you're a gorilla, it's really important to have that big family group so you can have those social bonds. Sometimes it's really playful, great social bonds, and sometimes like any other family, there's scuffles. And the same thing happens in our gorillas or any of our group animals. And it's kind of up to us to manage that, but also let them work it out because that is a natural behavior too, right? It's important for them to establish those hierarchies, like with our wolves. We had four sisters that were together since they were cubs. We work with our colleagues here at Wolf Haven. We just sent another one of our wolves down to Wolf Haven because their social dynamics have broken down a little bit as they get older. So now we're down to 2 here at Woodland Park Zoo. They're doing great together now. And then our colleagues on Wolf Haven have helped us out with kind of managing that social dynamic. So it's really important for us to be aware of what's going on with our animals and also reach out to our friends at other institutions to help us kind of manage things when challenges come up. Natural behaviors can be anything from, watching for predators as a meerkat or just being a goofball like a gorilla or putting something on your head because that's super fun when you're a primate. So any of those things, we have to provide those opportunities for the animals to do all the amazing things they have evolved to do. And then that last one is choice and control. And Caitlin did an excellent job of talking about why choice is so important for them. So here's just some great examples of that. Here's Blueberry, our hornbill, our ambassador hornbill. She is a fantastic ambassador. All of ambassadors are trained to voluntarily participate in programs, so she's allowed to say no. Just like those guinea pigs at the bottom there, they are actually lined up to get some glitter. I've fed them glitter, so we could collect their fecals to measure their cortisol. So those little 6 guinea pigs in that row were trained to line up in a row, and they all got different lettuce with different colored glitter on them, and it was the most adorable summer of my life. So those guys are pretty cute. On the bottom there is our red panda trained to get ultrasound check for cubs. She's also voluntarily doing that. She just would love to stand up on that bar and get ultrasounded for snacks and her favorite keeper. So it's a lot of relationship building and work that's also is really, really important for the animal's overall well-being. So we similarly, just like Seattle Aquarium, we have a welfare assessment process. And the reason we both have that is because it is a requirement from AZA. So AZA actually made a requirement that all institutions need to have a written process for evaluating the welfare of all the animals in their care. So Caitlin talked a little bit about how they do it at the aquarium. We're pretty similar here. We have a small group that goes out, looks at each individual animal or group of animals. We have a form. We don't use tracks. We use Zim, so we don't have it in the computer just yet. So we have a form right now. That's about 45 questions or so, covering those 5 opportunities. But also a big thing for me when I made this was lots of room for discussion and across teams and across levels and roles, so that anybody from the keepers all the way up to our executive team is all in the loop and working together about how to improve welfare and brainstorm things. So we always have a section for goal setting, planning for future things. We know this animal is breeding or going to be moving. How can we prepare them so that their welfare is maintained throughout that change? It's also really, really important to open that dialogue up. So filling out a form obviously doesn't actually improve welfare. It doesn't change anything if you just fill out the form. So what do we do with all of that information? We make action plans based on what we found, what we identified as things that might need work or what needs changed. So we make these action plans, and it's really easy to say we make an action plan and we do it and it's done and welfare is better. That's not realistic though, because a lot of times those action plans we make are not going to be completed tomorrow. Sometimes they cost a lot of money, capital projects, or we only have 5 people in our exhibits team. So if we need all the exhibits redone, that's just not feasible. Sometimes we have chronic conditions like medical conditions. We know they're chronic, we're treating them, but we're not going to cure them. Like Vip here, one of our gorillas that just passed away, he had a chronic hernia on the bottom there. You'll see a little pink spot for like 5 years. He had this like unhealing thing, but you can't really tell this gorilla to stop picking at that, please. So the vets would come every week. We did laser therapy. It was healed. It was fine. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't open, but it wasn't going to be completely healed ever. So we just kind of managed that, kept an eye on that. So those kind of things are be an action plan, but not something we would necessarily know that we're going to check off. But being aware of that is also really, really important. So I'm going to show you an example, a recent example of how we put those action plans into practice to actually improve welfare. So using our Komodo dragons as an example. Woodland Park Zoo opened our Komodo dragon exhibit in 2000. And at the time it was the standard dream in animal Komodo care and welfare. So this was the state-of-the-art exhibit. This is what it looked like. We had Salat, who was our Komodo. We had him for over 20 years. Which is very old for a Komodo dragon. And over that time, he, became a star of the zoo. But as he got older, we noticed that he was having some mobility issues. So we kind of started doing some geriatric care with him. So it kind of escalated over the years where you would take him off site. We got some CTs done on him. We saw he had some spinal degeneration. We got his joints weren't great. So we instituted, again, the laser therapy, acupuncture kind of program. He had all kinds of rehab stuff. So there's some pictures of Salat going to all his treatments. We do this about quarterly. The vets estimate that extended his comfortable life by 5 or 6 years. So he just passed away in 2019. After he passed away, we had a second Komodo, Barani, and we also had 2 younger ones, 2 young little baby Komodos at the time. And we also did this welfare assessment, and we looked at the parameters, and we looked at it and we said, this really isn't the greatest standard of care for Komodos anymore. 20 years ago, it was awesome, but we've learned so much since then, and the husbandry standards have really advanced. So what we have currently is really not great welfare for these animals. So how can we make it better? And it became a really hard decision, right? It's going to be a lot of money to renovate that whole exhibit, but if we can't do it, we shouldn't really have Komodos anymore. So do we keep these animals and invest the money, or do we send them out? So that was a big discussion. We ended up obviously keeping them and renovating our exhibit. So I'm going to show you a quick time lapse of what that renovation looked like. So it was a whole comprehensive thing that had lots of moving pieces, but the biggest part was our in-house exhibits teams developed and created and fabricated this natural looking tree from nothing, just in-house. That has internal temperature sensors and kind of has heat rocks inside of it. So the entire exhibit has been renovated, not just to make it look prettier, but also to help with the temperature, humidity, substrates, places for them to hide, increasing the choice. We put a whole new roof on to help with the UV and saving energy. So we have all of these things that we did to try to completely renovate that exhibit. Our exhibit team worked all of 2020. This is what they did during their quarantine at the zoo, is make this tree. So this is a pretty long video, but it ended up, this is what it would look like when we put the Komodos back in. So I think that is the most important part. Can we please go to the next slide? Thank you. So we obviously let the exhibits people be the first ones to see our Komodos in their brand new habitat. This is about a month ago. And since then, they have really thrived. They are exploring. They're doing all the things that we would want to see our Komodos doing. We now have 2 Komodos. We have Barani, who's 8, and then we have our young little guy, Nakani, who is 3. And we're hoping that now that we have, this beautiful exhibit, we're, a great place for future Komodo holding, or a place for people to send those Komodos that are breeding. We won't ever be a breeding facility. We don't have the space for that, and that would be great for them. But we do have help Komodos that are kind of checking off all those 5 opportunities as of now, but we will continue to evaluate. So why is this important though? So yes, it's great to see a Komodo that's happy and healthy, but what's important for the big picture? Our mission at Woodland Park Zoo is to make sure to inspire everyone to make conservation a priority in their lives, and that's really what we're here for. So how does providing, giving the Komodo a pumpkin full of dead mice do that? So we provide excellent animal welfare. The animals then have increased animal activity. They do all these natural behaviors that are inspiring and amazing. And it's our job as zoo professionals to put those behaviors in context and to provide programs that show, what are you seeing? Cats sleep 20 hours a day. It's not that they're bored or sad, it's that they're cats. So it's important for us to kind of interpret those things and also provide these beautiful habitats that are naturalistic to kind of put those behaviors in context. If we do all of that, we hope that we will inspire empathy for animals and nature in our guests. And we see that a lot with, kids come in, these moments happen all the time where there's face-to-face with some animal they would never ever see before. And those kids often grow up to become scientists themselves and help us work to release things like Western pond turtles in Pacific Northwest. And this couldn't come at a better time because now Komodos are now on the endangered list. So these kind of things all work together. So if we can inspire this new generation with our new Komodo exhibit with amazing Komodos, they're going to want to help conserve those animals as they grow up. So that's kind of our big picture goal. If we do all those things, then this is what all our happy animals should look like, but it's a continuous improvement process. We're always looking to ways to kind of improve the animals' well-being. So thank you guys. Appreciate you being here. I'm happy to take any questions.
Bonnie, thank you so much. That was
You're
so
so
cool.
welcome.
I think we're gonna do questions at the end because
Great.
we're running a bit out of time. But oh my gosh, I just went to the zoo and I had no idea that tree was fake. So that's a little embarrassing. But thank you so much. Okay, our third speaker is Jessica, who is the volunteer coordinator at Wolf Haven International. So Jessica, take it away.
Hey, thank you for having us here. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Right. Can everybody see my screen? All right. So Wolf Haven International is a wolf sanctuary. We're located in Tenino, Washington. So it's a small town. It's about 30 minutes from Olympia. So a lot of you may not have heard of it, but we're not too far from Seattle. And what we do is our mission is to conserve and protect wolves and their habitat. We do that through providing sanctuary, education, and conservation. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about with you today. And we provide lifetime sanctuary for our resident wolves in our care. Wolf Haven currently cares for 83 animals. Here in Tenino, we have 7 gray wolves, 21 Mexican wolves, 10 red wolves, 13 wolf dogs, 2 coyotes, and then we have 30 gray wolves at our Bridger, Montana satellite sanctuary. So lots of wolves in our care, and we have our resident animals will be with us for their entire lives. And then we have our species survival plan wolves that are a little bit different. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We are accredited by the American Sanctuary Association, as well as the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. Currently, we're the only wolf sanctuary that's accredited by GFAS because of their standards that they hold. So we hold our sanctuary to a really high level of care. Part of that is part of the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries. And a lot of our resident animals come from less than ideal circumstances. So Luca is right up here in the front. He was confiscated from a private ownership in Illinois. He was at a fur farm, sort of a compound, which, believe it or not, those still exist. He was confiscated along with 14 other wolves and wolf dogs before he came to Wolf Haven in 2015. So these were the conditions that he was in before he came to us. And this is him at Wolf Haven. He's able to settle into his environment. He has a companion that he gets along very well with, and he's able to be himself in a bit more of a natural setting where he's taken care of. Each wolf is provided with enrichment every day. This could be anything from some kind of a food item that they're not used to getting. It could be a smelly herb that they like to roll around in. It could be a pizza box that has different smells in it, or maybe some fur from one of the other wolves' enclosures. They can kind of smell other wolves that are, you know, in the area, but not close enough for them to actually be in contact with. So it's stimulation to help them keep their minds active and keep them engaged. And like this one right here, so every Halloween, we give them pumpkins. It's a shadow with his jack-o'-lantern. The next one is London with a Thanksgiving turkey. So every year on Thanksgiving, they get full turkeys that are stuffed with the entire Thanksgiving dinner, all the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, all the fixins, and they like to just tear those apart. There's always one Brussels sprout in every turkey, which none of them eat. They all spit them out or leave them in their enclosures, and you have to find them a couple days later when they start to smell really bad. But it's fun for them to kind of figure out where they are and search for them. In our education department, we do presentations for all sorts of organizations like Girl Scouts. They're here in this picture. We teach them not only about wolves, but about wildlife, ecosystems, biodiversity, different forms of wildlife, as you know, and from our former presenters, all of our species kind of work together in their ecosystem to create a balance. So we to teach youth about that, and particularly for younger organizations to be able to foster the curiosity. We offer programs in person and virtually. We also offer them in Spanish whenever we can. We'll present to classrooms, libraries, pretty much anyone who wants us to come and teach them about wolves. Here is Pam. She is one of our sanctuary co-managers. She's giving a presentation to a classroom. She also does some of our programs in Spanish. She is also the liaison between the Mexican wolf species survival plan and in the United States and the one in Mexico. So she's a good resource for us for that. We also offer a wildlife handling course every year, aside from these last couple of years due to COVID. But we have wildlife professionals come from around the country to learn about safe and humane animal handling. The course is done by Dr. Mark Johnson, who's taught a wide range of animal handling operations. Throughout the world, he used to be the veterinarian for Yellowstone National Park. So we were very lucky to have him come and do these programs with us to teach wildlife professionals to make sure that they are learning the proper techniques. We participate in 2 species survival plan programs, and we're also active in conservation efforts for wolves in Washington in general. One of the species survival plan programs that we participate in is for Mexican wolves. We have 21 Mexican wolves that are part of this program. They're owned by the program, so they can be moved to different facilities based on breeding recommendations for that year. Mexican wolves are the rarest subspecies of gray wolf. There's only about 226 in the wild right now, it's the current number. And they live in Arizona, New Mexico, and Mexico. And we also participate in the red wolf species survival program. Red wolves are native only to the Southeast United States, and there's actually less than 20 in the wild. So it's really important for us to conserve the species. They're the rarest canine species in the world. So it's one of our focuses is the breeding program. And also we've had this last year, we had a red wolf that was released into the wild in North Carolina as part of that program as well. We've had families of Mexican wolves released into Mexico. One actually became famous for being the one of the first packs to be able to take down an elk within the first week. So even though they're raised in captivity, put them out in the wild and their instincts take over. They still know what to do. Wolves in Washington, but a lot of people don't realize that we have wolves in Washington. We are working to protect them. They live mostly up in the northeastern part of the state. Washington separates the state into 3 sections as far as wolf conservation is concerned. They came naturally into the state from Idaho, from Canada, and up from the Yellowstone area. So they were not reintroduced. They actually just came in naturally from other areas. The Washington Wolf Plan objectives are to restore self-sustaining wolf populations, manage wolf livestock conflicts, maintain a healthy prey base, and develop public understanding and promote coexistence. These are the main things that they face in trying to decide how to manage wolves, not only in trying to other populations in the state, but also how to manage them once we reach those objectives. Wolves recovery's biggest hurdle is human attitudes. As you can imagine, wolves are a very polarizing species. People are usually on one side or the other. So Washington has implemented the Wolf Advisory Group, or the WAG, which is a group of stakeholders that range from conservationists, hunters, ranchers, people from any group that may have an input as far as wolves are concerned. And they discuss different issues, and they're able to advise the Department of Fish and Wildlife on wolf conservation management. So that way, anything that is a concern for any area, say a hunter has an issue, they can talk to an entire group about it that may have differing opinions, and that way they can work through those opinions. So it's been really helpful. Diane Gallegos, our executive director, is a member of this group. So we have we get a lot of insight into what's happening on the state level with wolves because of her involvement. In Washington, we have a definition for packs and breeding pairs. So the definitions do vary depending on state. So each state has its own definition of what they call a pack or a breeding pair. In Washington, a pack is considered two wolves traveling together. That can be a male and a female, but it can also be two females or two males. So it's just two wolves that are traveling together. It's not necessarily a family group like we would normally think of a pack. A breeding pair would be two wolves plus two or more pups that survive until December 31st. So that part is important because the mortality rate for wolf pups is around 50%. So it's important that they're not considered a breeding pair unless they have two or more pups that make it until the end of the year. So in order to be considered recovered in Washington, since gray wolves don't have federal protection anymore, they are still considered endangered in Washington state. So in order to have them be not considered endangered in Washington anymore, they do have to meet certain objectives. So they have to have 4 breeding pairs in each of those 3 sections of the state, and plus 3 breeding pairs anywhere for 3 consecutive years, or 6 breeding pairs anywhere for 1 year. And right now, we do have 4 breeding pairs in that eastern section, and we have exactly 4 in that northwest section. But as of right now, there are no wolves in the southwestern area of the state. So we are still quite a ways from meeting our recovery objectives, but they're currently working on a recovery plan. The plan for wolf management in general took 5 years to put together. So they're getting a head start on the post-recovery plan of how to manage wolves once we meet those criteria. But we still have a little long ways to go. Some states will separate it so they can be considered not endangered in some areas of the state and endangered in others. Washington is an all or none state. So luckily they still have protection all over the state since we haven't met those objectives yet. But Washington is a great environment for wolves because it has a prey base to support them. Wild wolves in Washington survive primarily on deer, elk, and moose and other ungulates that they can find. But the animals are dangerous to hunt. They've got big antlers, big hooves. They can easily get hurt when they're hunting. They're only successful 1 in 10 hunts. So they actually help to maintain the health of the herd because they go after the older and the sick animals. So it helps keep the wolf packs healthy, and it also helps with the health of the herd. It's called the sanitation effect. But sometimes, because their natural prey is so dangerous to hunt, they can be opportunistic. So a lot of our livestock grazing in Washington happens near wolf territories. A lot of it happens on the eastern part of the state. So we work to try to prevent and reduce livestock conflicts. There's a lot of ways that this can happen. Wolf livestock conflicts are pretty rare considering the amount of livestock that is grazed on near wolf territories, but they do happen. About 20% of packs typically will be involved in some kind of depredation event in any given year. But there are a lot of non-lethal deterrents that can be used to prevent conflicts. A lot of places will use fladry, they'll use ranching dogs or range riders to try to help prevent those conflicts from happening. But wolves are very smart and they get used to things easily. So you can use things like that for they say up to about a month and a half. And then you have to change up what you're doing to try to keep the wolves from coming back because they get used to whatever you're doing. So part of that is working with the Department of Fish and Wildlife to help them. They cover the cost of some of those tools to help keep wolves out without having to use lethal actions, and to cover the cost of livestock that's lost to wolf depredations. And that helps us work toward our goal, which is a new path towards coexistence so that people and wolves can live in the same areas and not have the issues that have happened throughout history. That's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Jessica. That was awesome. Those prints are huge. Holy smokes. All right, Nicole, you are going to bring it home for us today. So Nicole is the Development Events Associate at Seattle Humane.
Perfect. It's been a while since I've screen shared. Let's see. So let's see. I think, I wonder if I think Jessica might need to.
I think I do. I'm just trying to figure out where that. Oh, there. Okay, perfect.
Zoom still overwhelms me every time, so it's all good. Let me see. Perfect. So hopefully you are seeing this. I'm not sure if it's full screen. Is this full screen?
It is full screen.
It's not in present. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. So what is happening? My name, is Nicole from Seattle Humane. I started here only about probably 5 months ago now. So this is actually my first workplace presentation. So it's been a really great opportunity to learn more about Seattle Humane and all we do. So I'll just try to go through who we are real quick. So we really focus on the human-animal bond and doing all we can to keep pets in their loving homes. And we really focus on any animal, regardless of their needs, special needs like disabilities, age, or circumstances. We'll bring animals in from other states, other counties, other shelters who are overwhelmed by numbers. A lot of folks think we are connected to the Humane Society of America or other humane societies, but a lot of us are actually private nonprofits. So we don't have any government funding, and about 90% of our funds to stay, sorry, I have people knocking on my door, to stay running comes directly from our donors, which is really amazing. And 80% of all of our funds go towards the animals directly, whether for their care. We're actually turning 125 next year, which is amazing. We moved into our brand new shelter in 2017, and it's a really big change from the old shelter. It reduces stress on animals. Dogs and cats are on different floors, so it's a lot quieter. So it's been really amazing to see this building and how it really encompasses our mission. I know a lot of folks already know that we do adoptions, but I really just wanted to quickly go over how we support our pet owners and the community. We have a really broad community medicine program where we'll actually go to low-income neighborhoods where they don't necessarily have the means or the the resources to get to us. So we'll go to them, provide free microchipping, free vaccines to just really keep the care of their animals to be pristine. And that kind of also associates with our pet food bank, which is almost 100% volunteer run. All of the food and the toys and the other items that are in our bank come from donations from the community. So our volunteers will actually take those items out to senior centers, those low-income neighborhoods, and just increase accessibility for everyone. We actually started a spot program, which is probably my favorite program. It's for supporting pet owners in transition. So a lot of people going through really hard times, whether they lost a job, a death of a family member, or moving. We're a very no questions asked organization. You can come to us and we'll help, and we'll care for your animal for 90 days without even needing to know a reason. And all of this kind of ties toward our donors and our pet assistant fund. All of that money kind of goes to all of the above. But another cool aspect is really people who are facing barriers in housing. So we'll promote their welfare and support them with pet deposit fees, pet rent fees, and so on. And I just wanted to show a quick video. Hopefully this audio works. This is actually one of the folks who benefited from our pet assistance or our spot program, sorry. So hopefully you can hear it. Whoops, as I like pause it.
I don't think we're hearing anything if it's.
Or, you know, I was like, sometimes it has to do with a setting that's on here. Let me see. And I can always send you this too.
I can send it out to everyone, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So this is a really cute story, and I know we're running short on time anyway, but it's just a really cute story of this woman here has her mother's dog Mo, and her mother has been having a lot of medical problems, and she was unfortunately unable to take care of Mo anymore. So this is kind of talking about how Mo came into our care and they were reunited after about 100 days, which is crazy. And her mother's doing a lot better now and was able to get Mo into their care again, which was a really great way to kind of talk about the program and how it's all really new, but it's already making a really big impact. So sorry that audio is being funny. I'll just skip over this since we're low in time, but the Schuler Medical Center is also one of our big community program aspects. We provide affordable surgeries like spay and neuter, wellness exams, which if you go to a vet, those can cost hundreds of dollars for normal families, and also those microchipping. We also we're a high level facility where we actually do major surgeries like mass removals, amputations, eye surgeries. One of our most common procedures is dental care, so dental removals, cleaning. And we also have a really cool set of features like radiology rooms. We really focus on the animal's comfort with separate ICU rooms for cats and dogs, and some recovery rooms that have heated mats, and they're really cozy. One of the most interesting things I've seen is we actually have airtight cubbies that pump through oxygen, and this is to house cats who have ringworm and other really spreadable diseases that need to be treated before they can be adopted out. That video was just kind of going over our partnership with Washington State University. We have second and third year medical students, veterinary medical students who come over, and they're actually the ones who help us perform a lot of these spay and neuter surgeries. So they're getting real life experience, and Wazoo's always been a really big supporter of us. But yeah, those are our big community program aspects. Of course, adoptions is a huge thing. We make sure to keep every animal in our care, whether it's a cat, dog, or critter, until they're adopted. Sadly, we have animals who've stayed here for weeks, or some of our older animals who don't get as much love as kittens and puppies, sadly. Some of them can be here for anywhere between 2 to 6 months, which is really crazy to me. So a lot of things that can be done to donate is taking advantage of this amazing employee giving program and really making use of those matching gifts. Monthly donations is also a really big source of reliable income for us that helps with food and other smaller supplies. But other than financial, some really impactful ways is to become a foster. Like I was saying, some of those older pets stick around for half a year sometimes. So it's really a way to get them a break from the shelter. Sick animals often tend to be in our care for a while, so just giving them a place to recover and allowing those really young animals a chance to grow and get strong. And we're finally ready to almost welcome back our volunteers, which is really exciting after almost a few years of not being able to take on new volunteers. But it would be impossible with our volunteers. They're responsible for a lot of our animal care, such as walking the pets and feeding them. And they actually assist with our gala and other events. So there's just easy ways you can get involved other than monetary donations. And I think that's about what I have. Sorry about those videos. I'm happy. I'm sure it's a setting somewhere. So I'm happy to send that PowerPoint to you, Annabelle, and hopefully share it out. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yes, please send it to me. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you to all our speakers. What a great variety of animal welfare that we got to listen to today. That was great. I think Jolynn actually had a question for Bonnie. Yes.
Yes,
ma'am.
I did have a question. So I was wondering what happened with the gorilla troops at the zoo after Vip died. Like, there were two troops, did they
There were, yeah.
combine?
So it was Vip and Jamoki were together in our geriatric troop, and then we had the family group. So when Vip passed away, Jamoki, she is currently by herself. We had a recommendation to send her to Jacksonville to be with the family group, and then Jacksonville said no, thank you.
Oh.
Wah, wah. So now we are actually working on bringing in more gorillas, starting another family group to bring with Jamoki. So the SSP, they said, fine, you don't want to send Jamoki out. So they're sending us a new silverback and 2 or 3 more females.
Wow.
So, I know. So it's big times. So that probably won't happen until spring or summer though. And it hasn't quite been finalized yet. That's the current plan. Jamoki right now has visual and access to the whole other group. So she can see the other ones. We can't reintegrate them just right now, just because of the 2 kids, that we don't want to cause any undue commotion in a group when we have 2 infants in it.
Yeah.
And also Kwame is our silverback now. He's a pretty young silverback still. So adding another that's a lot for him to manage.
Yeah.
He's already got 3 ladies and 2 kids. It's 3 kids. It's a lot for him. So we're trying to do for his welfare and his well-being. So Jamoki has lots of access throughout the day, and she can see them and touch them through mesh, but we don't put them together. So hopefully she'll have some companions here in the next couple of months, but until then she's getting lots of extra attention.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We were always huge fans of the gorilla, like every family, I think.
Yeah.
Huge fans of the gorillas at the zoo. And I had kids kind of parallel to a couple of the gorilla babies.
Oh, yeah.
So
I had a baby before 2 weeks after Zuna was born. So I have so Zuna
yeah,
and
so like the gorillas would show me their babies and like want to look at my baby, which I was like, oh.
Yep, right there with you.
Yeah. So I'm actually we were very sad about Vip at our house.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? I know we're a little over time, so speakers, thank you for sticking around.
No problem.
And if we don't have any other questions, we can also end it.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you so much.
This was awesome.
All
Thank you so
righty.
much.
And
Bye.
if anybody would like any of the PowerPoints, just let me know and I can send it out.
Great.
All right. Take care, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you. Bye.